A very warm welcome to this highly anticipated webinar, where we have the privilege of listening to two exceptionally guest speakers. Our first guest for today is Mr. Gurumurthy Kashinathan, who is a seasoned professional with over 32 years of experience in various sectors, including development, government, academia, and corporate. Currently, he holds the position of founder member and director of IT for Change. Currently at IT for Change, he leads research programs and counseling projects in the education domain. Before this, for over 7 years, he has been a visiting faculty at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. He has also spent 6 years in education technology, education leadership and management, and education policy with the Azim Premji Foundation. Currently, he has been involved in designing and implementing online courses for teachers, conducting workshops for teachers, educators, and developing blended and online courses for student teachers and English teachers. He has also contributed to programs promoting open educational resources. He has been actively engaged in research studies related to ICT in education, OER adoption, and the use of videos for non-formal education. With his vast experience and expertise, he has made significant contributions to the field of education and has been instrumental in leveraging technology for social change and development. Joining him, we also have Ms. Anusha Sharma, who is deeply involved in the design and implementation of student and teacher education programs at IT for Change. With a keen interest in mathematics and science, she focuses on developing content, curriculum, and pedagogical approaches in these subjects. Her journey into the social sector was fueled by her passion for making a meaningful impact. After spending 3 years in the corporate sector, she pursued an MA in education at Azim Premji University. Equipped with bachelor's degree in engineering, Ms. Anusha brings a unique blend of technical skills and a deep understanding of education to her work. Her commitment to bridging the gap between technology and education is evident in her role at IT for Change. Through her expertise and dedication, she is driving innovation in education and fostering a love for mathematics and science among learners. We are delighted to have her as our guest today. With this brief introduction of both our guests, I invite Mr. Gurumurthy sir to start a discussion with Anusha ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tejal, for having us. There was something urgent that came up. So Guru will be joining us a little late. He will be here for the discussions for sure. But I can, start with the presentation and he'll be joining us. So can we begin?
Yes, Anusha, our students are joining from their classroom and there are also online participants.
Okay. Sure. So I'm just going to share my screen. Yes. Is it visible? Has it come on?
Yes.
Okay, great. Right. So first of all, thank you, for this opportunity to the conversations team. I hope this will be interactive and we'll keep it as a conversation. So before we begin, I just want to understand from everyone, what comes to your mind, when you hear technology integration, or education technology. What is your imagination of it? What are your thoughts? Can I request some of you to share what comes to mind? I think I should keep the chat also on just a second.
Yes.
Right, a disruptive boon. Right. Sorry.
Maybe the use of technology to enhance the educational experience.
Okay. In what way do you imagine, like when you say enhance?
By enhancing the teaching and learning process altogether.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that comes to mind?
I should have an input from this side of the classroom where speaker is saying that even using technology to be able to connect.
Sorry, I'm not, it's not clearly audible to me.
Purnima, you are not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So an input from here, which is that even connecting learners and teachers or speakers like yourself who have information and learnings to share remotely and sort of facilitating learning remotely, not just within classrooms.
Right, right. Okay. And I see in the chat, Radhika has also mentioned it might help in visualization. Yes, certainly. Okay, so all of these, I think all of us have a sense of, what we mean, and then maybe in this discussion, we'll delve a little deeper on, what are some of the mainstream models, or, what is the popular imagination of education technology, and what could be some alternative models, especially in the context of Indian education and for the public education system. Time saving. Okay. Could you say time saving? Could you elaborate? Time saving for whom?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
It was me who have written that time saving, because what happens is that the technology is enabling the other person, instead of wasting time in travel and all the other hassles. At the comfort of your own home or own office, you can connect to people around the world
Okay, so when you
with
connect
the use of
remotely,
with the
okay,
use of the technology, like the Zoom platform. Example.
right, right, okay, okay,
How
okay,
about learners collaborating on a project with the help of technology? Learners from different regions or different spaces.
yes, yes. So collaborating with other peers or other learners, and then technology can enable collaboration beyond your geographical scope. Yes, certainly. Anything else?
Gamification be a part of it, ma'am? Like the use of
Gamification.
various gaming elements into learning process.
Sorry, could you repeat the last part?
I was talking about the inclusion of various gaming elements in the learning process.
Gaming elements in the learning process. Okay, so we have something in today's discussion that is also very closely related to what you're saying. But yeah, so in terms of, you mean like it could be in terms of assessment or small activities, and then you add elements of gamification into the process. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So I now have another question. Personally, if you have to look at it, what role does technology play in your life? Like, how do you use technology, and in what ways?
Social media, YouTube,
Yeah, yes.
for
Social
entertainment, to knowing
Entertainment,
information,
yes, certainly.
facilitating life in terms of ordering things, and everything is
Like
now
convenience, right?
convenience. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Online lecture like we're doing now.
Right. So webinars and online classes. Yes. Anything else like in your day-to-day life?
Banking, IT,
Right,
tax returns. Now everything is
right. Going digital. So that brings me to the society we live in currently can be termed as a digital society. And you might be familiar with the term. It's like we also refer to it as digital society or a digital economy. And then what we really mean by this is, what you just spoke about, that it's like the data and the modes of interacting are, going digital. So the way we access information, the way information is available, the way we share, the way we, in our social interactions, our economic activities. So all of these we see now are, more and more we are heading towards digitalization. So there's also like digitization is again different from like digitalization. Like you may know from just digitization, maybe like, some notes that you have written and you take a photo of it, or, you transcribe it and it becomes digital. So, but the other thing is digitalization also involves the actual process itself being digital. And what is also becoming common nowadays is who is really facilitating these things. So when we say everything is going digital, so we are ordering things online, we are accessing information. So who is facilitating this information access? Who is facilitating these apps, or the way we order things online, or the way we communicate. So more and more we see that it's largely web-based platforms. Could we think of a few? I'm sure like all of us would come up with the same list. Can we, what comes to your mind the moment you say a large web-based platform? Which are the most common platforms that you use? So for all the things that you said, technology plays a role in your life. Which are the platforms that are facilitating these interactions? Google, certainly the giant. Facebook, yes. Meta, as it is now. Twitter, Amazon, even Ola, Uber, or Swiggy, Zomato. So all of these, they're really bringing together different actors in the society, and specific services that they offer. They bring together and they create value, and then they they define what is the value creation, and they look for ways to optimize that value. And more and more, sorry. Yeah. So as I mentioned, the platforms are now becoming like the middlemen, and then they are bringing together different actors. And then that defines also, defines and sort of controls also the way we interact. So like, it may not be possible, like we may want certain facilities or services to be in a certain way, but since it is dependent on the platform and then it is defined by the platform, it may not be possible for us to always, Coursera, yes, for online courses as well. Yeah, so as I was saying, the platforms today are defining, of course, they are facilitating the services and interactions, but they're also having control over how we are interacting, how much we are interacting, and what we can interact about. So these are also being defined by the platforms. And then, right. So, and how these sort of survive, or, what is, how they're optimizing value is also by creating those dependencies, and then by harvesting the data that, what is generated from those interactions, generating database intelligence from that and optimizing value. So any of these platforms, if we take as an example, initially when, say Ola or Uber started, that was only was an alternative. We had autos, we had other modes of transport, but then initially maybe all of us were not so dependent on it. But now it may be the case that the moment we need to step out, that may be one of the first things we look at. And like, actually maybe going to a physical auto stand, or, going to a taxi stand and finding it is not the thing that automatically comes to mind. So that dependency is created, and then the platform collects information on, how we are using the app or how we are using the service. And then, of course, initially the incentives for both the consumer and the the drivers also on the app was initially very high, but over time we see that as and when we have become more dependent on the platform, the incentives have reduced, and that is how the value is also optimized, and that is how it remains profitable for the platform. So the reason why we've discussed all of this is also to look at what has been happening in education when we talk about digitalization and platforms. So in education, as we all know, the pandemic, not only the pandemic, I would rather say the school closures, so that were induced because of the pandemic, and it was more than 2 years long, and especially in India, it was the longest. So this, which education systems that were largely, non-digital, especially if we look at our government education system, probably till the pandemic, it was largely non-digital, and even for teachers to use, there was not, they were not equipped with it, but rather the school closure sort of forced them to try it out. And I'm not saying it was effective in any way, or that, it offered any meaningful education, but probably at least maybe through WhatsApp and things like that, teachers tried to reach out to the students, and an attempt was made. And we are also seeing that, a lot of governments also are now, introducing a lot of technology programs. Recently, I think in Telangana, there have been a lot of smart classes, or their smart TVs that they have, introduced in the government schools. And of course, the NEP also is, emphasizing the need for technology, and, to defining the role of technology in education. So the issue is also, during the pandemic, there were a lot of edtech companies, and especially if you look at it like Byju's or Vedantu and other such companies, and many also, for primary grade. So a lot of these were mushrooming, recognizing, the market as such, and to recognizing that there may be a gap, and they were trying to reach the student directly through the edtech service. So what is there are multiple implications of this, and we will look at why it is not just in terms of the economy, but it's also affecting, there are technological implications, there are economic implications, and pedagogical. So we will look at that. Sorry, just a second. So I'm sorry, just. Okay. Right. So what really are the implications of this phenomena of private players coming into the education space, and how do they function, and then what could be the implications? So the most education, like, the edtech firms, as we refer to it, they say that they offer personalized learning, and that, they may use AI or other algorithms to cater to the specific learning needs of individuals, of individual learners. And then that, it will, even the assessments would be catered that way. But the issue with this is also, as what I think someone mentioned, gamification. So there is also a term called learnification, where whatever education is sort of reduced to transacting subject related content. So if you take a topic, say in science or mathematics, you break it down into smaller chunks that can be consumed by students, and then these are this is what is transacted through the edtech product or service. And we notice here that this is completely opposite to what have been defined as the aims of education. So we know that education is not just merely a process of knowledge acquisition, but the socialization and collaboration among peers, and reflecting on that. All of these are very important elements of education, which are completely compromised when we say that these through personalized learning, or when the content only is transacted through technology. So and a major issue that is also posed here is that the role of the teacher is reduced, or rather eliminated in this process. So so far, like, if we look at it's not that technology has come in only in 2020, or just during the pandemic. It has existed even in the past, but if we look at it, like, historically, it was more focused on how teachers can use it, or maybe about like, when in our schools, when we look at it, what content can be given to the teachers, or how students can learn. But here it is, the edtech firms are directly trying to reach the students, and not through the teachers. So that is also creating a risk of de-skilling the teacher and diluting their agency. So these are like, very serious pedagogical implications. And then, of course, it is not that all the edtech firms are right now, like, in the schools, or they're going through. Even if it is in the school, we have to really think about what is it that Byju's or another edtech firm is really getting by offering free content to schools. Now, suppose a government has a program where they have installed smart TVs or smart classes with the preloaded content. Merely by giving the content, Byju's is not really gaining anything. So how is it that they because these are backed by venture capitalists, and then how is it generating profit, or what is it leading to? So when we evaluate that comes to the technological implications, that is that the algorithms that define the services provided by these firms are unknown, in the sense, like, how these decisions are made, or what is the data harvested, and how it is used, or how it is being analyzed, is unknown to the user of the product. And we also know that data and privacy issues are serious risks that these pose, and then it could lead to, and especially when we are talking about children, we already know when we use the platforms, and when we use it for different purposes, we know that our how much data Google collects, or how much data Meta collects. The moment we have a we may be discussing something, you search something on Google, and then you go to your social media app, and we automatically see ads related to that. So and this is if we imagine this process being applied by the edtech firms, and there were cases even during the pandemic of how Byju's tried to sell the app to poor parents, and then because technology is largely unknown, or it is sort of seen as an attractive solution to any problems that persist in our system, you automatically think that the moment you have content that is very good, or an activity that is, or an app that is really good, we automatically think that you look at it and then that is going to solve the problem. But we know that, and we've been seeing this historically, that just content, or just offering something on an app is not going to solve the problems that persist, or the needs of the learners. And there is also how they I think that I've already covered the economical implications. And it is not only that they right. So, given this context, and given how the edtech firms are operating, and then what it could mean if it is used in the same way in the education space, we also need to evaluate what is necessary, what is available, and what can be done, and how we need to respond to this situation. So the alternate, or so we need a model that strengthens the public system, and then models that promote that empower teachers, and then empower schools, and then in terms of ownership, and then how they integrate it. So a very important principle for this is that the teacher should be the mediator, and they should be able to interpret technology. So their capacities to decide for themselves how they want to use the technology, what are the possibilities, and then what resources are relevant to my classroom, must lie with the teacher. And then you should not try to bypass the teacher by making decisions on their behalf, without giving taking away their agency. So what are some alternate models that exist? So another principle would be to opt for non-proprietary and non-profit open source software. So free and open source softwares and licenses, because one is, okay, the definition of free is often nowadays what is happening is most of the services or websites or anything that we access may appear to be free, but when we say FOSS, or when we say it is open source, it is in terms of freedom. That is, there's no lock-in in terms of how you use it. So for instance, if maybe all of us have used Google Suite, or say Canva, or some service like that, but if tomorrow Google decides that this is going to be paid, or some features are limited, or this will not be available to all users, there is really nothing that we can do. But in the case of open source software, it is free in terms of the code is available to everybody, and it is not that you and I would every day go and check the code, but we know that it is there for anybody to see and evaluate. So we know what is being collected, how it is working, and what is happening. The same applies to licenses as well. Often, a lot of content that we download or is available, it might have been mentioned that it is free to use, or you can only use it for the purpose of your classroom, or you can use it for your personal use, but it would be mentioned that you cannot modify it, or you cannot edit, or you cannot further share it. So the open licenses, especially for teachers, is important, because it's not necessary that every resource you find online is relevant to your context. So we may find, say, a worksheet or a video online, and then it may not directly be applicable to my context. So, or even if we take a video, perhaps it's available in a language that that is not relevant to me. So it may be in English, or it may be in again, maybe not Indian English. So if it was open license, the teacher can download the video and then maybe record her own voice over it, or in a different language, and then use it for her students. So these possibilities are exist only when open source or open educational resources are used. And the other basic principle is also that the technology oftentimes most solutions that are developed or produced by technology companies are looking primarily at the technological possibilities, and it is assumed that okay, the pedagogy or content is the main matter, and then you look at how to design it in an attractive manner and how it can be conveyed, but the pedagogy is largely ignored. So any technology tool that is used, or a technology based resource that is created, first and foremost must have the aims and purposes of education at the center. It cannot be that okay, we have a technology solution and then we are going to look at how to apply this. I have this lesson on say photosynthesis, and I'm now going to look at how it can be used in the classroom. But it should be the other way around, that you first look at your classroom context, your learner needs, and then decide what technology should I use that can be useful in this context, or for the needs of my learners. And so FOSS and OER therefore is essential in enabling this. And then it is not just that, so there are multiple ways in which FOSS and OER can come together, and there are various models that have been tried out as well. So as even the CLICS model, for instance, uses this as its foundation, where the focus is not merely on working directly with students, but TPD is at the core of it. So and empowering teachers, and it's not that okay, technology means that it has to be a computer teacher who is going to take care of that, and I'm not going to do technology, and then the subject, the actual pedagogy is decided by someone else. But it is necessary to bring both of those together. So the imagination of technology, for learning, it can be subject-based learning, how can you use, what technology can be used for, say, teaching science or for mathematics, and then what aims of mathematics education is that addressing. So it is not technology for the sake of technology, but then how is it helping the teacher inch closer towards achieving the aims of education. So there are open source FOSS tools also exist for most proprietary software. So it's not just in terms of, for instance, Windows may be the mainstream most popular operating system, but there are alternatives there is Ubuntu, and then even for office suites there is LibreOffice, and there are various resource creation, there is Kdenlive, there is VocoScreen for creating videos, there is Audacity for audio, and then there are PDF editors, even web conferencing. So at IT for Change, we regularly use a tool called Big Blue Button. So that is open source, and then we've even conducted conferences using Big Blue Button. And there are various other alternatives as well. And as for educational applications also, there are various alternatives. So for instance, there's something called GeoGebra for mathematics. There is PhET, which has simulations for science, and there is Marble. There are all of these various applications. I can share a link of some of these applications that we use for subject-related resources as well. So what is essential for us to understand here is what are the possibilities that FOSS and OER can offer, and how is it why are we saying it is an alternative, and why are we saying it is necessary for the public system. So in 2013, there was there was a national ICT curriculum that came out, and that clearly has it's defined how really ICT can be integrated in the education system, for middle school, and there's a textbook, and there's also a teacher handbook for middle school and high school teachers. And the two key themes that it highlights, and it is very relevant, for this discussion as well, is the connecting and learning and creating and learning. So what we mean by connecting and learning is how ICT enables us to connect with the world. So what all of you mentioned towards the start of this discussion is that, it is connecting not only like, connecting to the web. So even to access information to, various websites, various tools, it also enables us to connect with peers and learn from them. Or there are a lot of, professional learning communities as well, or communities of practice. And then the ICT enables these interactions and like, to connect with one another and learn in that process. And the second aspect is creating and learning, which is how tools enable us to, or ICT helps us create contextual resources. So using the some of the tools that I mentioned when I was talking about FOSS, like by enabling teachers to by building their capacities to create themselves, that will automatically ensure that it is contextual. So the moment a teacher can, has the ability to create herself, she would firstly look at, she would already have her context in mind and the needs of her learners in mind. And any resource that she creates is, relevant to what is necessary for her and her class. And then there is also creation need not always refer only to resources as well. It could also refer to, exchanges or, ideas or, even opinions that you share. So within the community, so it may also be that, okay, you're generating an idea and sharing that, and that can also be a creation, and you can create various activities from the existing resources. So all of these, so when both of this comes together, and that is when an alternate can be possible, and hence it is necessary also for the public system. And a very successful example for this, which is owned by the government, is in Kerala. So, and Kerala, not now, from over a decade, they have been, dedicated, they've been dedicating efforts to use FOSS, and then like in schools. And they also have an organization like within the TISS-Hyd, they have an institution called KITE that develops FOSS-based tools and OERs for Kerala schools. And it is amazing to know that it is not that this is in a very ideal condition, or like oftentimes it may seem that, okay, because we're used to looking at the popular models and what is readily available, thinking of an alternative may seem difficult. But studying some of the initiatives that Kerala has done, and what has been possible there, and how the teachers have been empowered and how it has been effective, is really inspiring. A very recent example. So we recently conducted a study in association with the Regional Institute of English, South India, on a program that KITE has launched just last year. It is called like e-language lab. So they have again, it's a very simple idea, but executed beautifully and across the state. So they have used Moodle. It's a MOOC platform, I think it's a learning management software and then learning management system. And they've used Moodle and stories. So Pratham Story Weaver, they have integrated, they've chosen stories, they have created activities on those stories, and have integrated it with Moodle, and have installed it across the state. They have they piloted it last year, and it's focusing on building English language abilities in students. And in the study also we found that it has been the findings were amazing, and it has built confidence, and students are trying to speak, and and they're taking it forward this year. But such models do exist, and they have various other initiatives. So I think I would like to just conclude by saying that we alternatives are possible, alternate imaginaries are possible. And then it's important for us to always, come together, have these discussions and evaluate what is necessary and then what we need to do going forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Anu ma'am, we can see that you are unmute, but we cannot hear you if you are saying something.
No, I just
No,
concluded. Yeah.
no, yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I was talking to Anu Joy, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Hi, we're wondering while we're waiting for we can take a few questions.
Yeah, thank you, Anusha. Tejal, you are there.
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
So we can start the discussion session. I request the students to ask their questions and then we will open it for others.
Anusha ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, Rushi. Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. So, when we touched upon, the role of teachers, which is now diminishing, and the larger view of tech being in terms of, so we as a community know that, tech is not a replacement, but an assistance to
Rishi, we
the
cannot hear you
I
clearly.
lost you a bit. Yeah.
but which is,
Rishi,
not widely perceived.
Rushi, your conversation is breaking.
Is it better now, ma'am?
Yes.
You come near the table.
Yeah. I think I'm clear now.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we touched upon the elimination of teachers, there are readings as well in terms of the budget allocation to the teacher education programs have also been kind of shifted towards, kind of replacing them with other tech inputs that they can, give. So the funds which were first going to like the in-service program or the professional development programs of teachers are now being shifted towards implementing, tech support for the students in terms of lectures. Where do we see, so as you mentioned, FOSS OER, and fortunately, some of the students from our batch were part of the IFP implementation with the Telangana government in the SCRTs. How do we scale that up in terms of, as of now, it's the government schools that we are integrating and implementing the IFP panels, but how do we make it mainstream? Because at the mainstream, the Baijus and the Vedantas are ruling, which are kind of replacing the teachers. So how do we make it more broad with terms of FOSS OER?
Right. So I think, again, I didn't mean that the panels itself, need to be mainstream. The issue also with often with technology infrastructure is, we know that over time, it's not like a one-time investment that's going to last a lifetime, right? They need to be maintained and they need to be upgraded. And then we know, like, all the devices that we have, be it a phone or a laptop, has limited the lifespan of each device is limited. So it is, that also brings me to say that it's not necessary that we imagine the technology integration only in one sense. I'm not saying only in terms of the panel, but it can even be like, okay, suppose a teacher only has, say, her mobile phone, or, say only has a speaker, a small speaker in her class, or there's just one computer in the school. So what we need to look at is how do we support the teacher in imagining what can be possible with what is available. So because it is not the case that every teacher can aspire to have a fully functional lab, or a smart class where they can try out all of these things. But then even if it is just one computer, what is, or a mobile phone, what can the teacher do through her mobile? And then of course we know that our mobile phones today are as powerful as any other device that exists. So in that availability also, what really is possible? So there are FOSS applications that you can install on the phone itself, and in terms of creating, or it may not even be creating, or even just to access what is available. And if it's a, for instance, for language, we are trying it out in Bangalore. Actually, we're having a workshop tomorrow on, we are trying to explore how language teaching learning can be facilitated with different technology infrastructures. So suppose a teacher has just a mobile phone, what are the possibilities? Suppose they have a mobile phone with a small speaker, what is possible? So maybe you can then listen to the stories, and then it can be a listening exercise, and then it can even give you audio prompts, and then students engage in activities related to that. So I think it's a spectrum, and then we cannot say that even the approaches through FOSS OER, it is not necessary that okay, there is one model, and then you need a lab, and then you need all of these systems, and you need these applications, and then it is implementable. It would not work like that. So for every different scenario, and then every case, we will have to, it has to be customized, and it is possible with when it is open source or when it is FOSS, it is possible to have these imaginations, which may not be possible in the other case. Like for instance, if there's a ready-made bundle or content available for the panels, then it's only that. It's not, the teacher cannot say that okay, this is there, but can I maybe get it on my phone because there's no current, or can I play it on my phone, and maybe for a small group I'll show it on the computer. That may not be possible if it is bundled in that way. But in the case of if it was an OER which is available on a repository and that's accessible, you may the teacher may download it in advance and keep it ready, and anticipating that okay, the context in the school is different, we may not have internet connectivity, or I may not be able to stream it or play it live. So I hope that answers what you were asking.
Definitely. And also this brings me to the second question which I have is because from an organizational perspective that you are currently working on, how do you see our country, or the place that we are in, how ready we are in terms of the infrastructure that we see in the institutions, ready for tech or ready for ICT implementation?
What do you mean?
Anush, just a minute. I know Guru also joined the meeting, so I invite Guru also to join the discussion. But Anusha, continue to respond.
Yes, I request Guru also to participate. So I'm sorry, could you elaborate what you mean by tech readiness? Or
in terms of basic so when we were working on the IFP project as well, simple things like electricity in a school, or simple things like internet in a school, in terms of the basic necessities of implementing tech in a classroom, how ready we are in terms of as a nation, in terms of, because you must have tapped into the rural schools or the government schools. What is your general notion in terms of how prepared we are for that?
So see, that again depends on how we perceive technology, right? I may say that I have a mobile phone and I'm ready, right? If it's now again that connecting to what I previously said. When you say readiness, it automatically means that you have something in mind, or you've defined like a minimum requirements, and then you're saying that okay, what all, like then you have a checklist of these are the things that are necessary, and this is what I have. But then what we are trying to say is that we cannot approach it in that way. We have to look at what is here, what are possible, and what is possible and what is available, and then move forward from there. So I cannot say that okay, like a computer lab is the minimum requirement for any school. Like a computer lab with internet connection is the minimum requirement. I cannot say that, because when we define that, all of these alternatives sort of, it doesn't allow for any of this to exist. You're saying that this is what we need, and then if you don't have that, then there's nothing else. So I don't think we can, I mean, I'm coming from a different perspective. The way I am looking at it is, irrespective of what you have, it can be very minimal, it can be very simplistic, and like it can even be like low cost solutions, and then from there you look at what is possible to do and move from that. Guru, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I already put in the chat and I completely agree with you. In fact, your previous answer was just the same thing, that tech has to fit into the context and not the other way around.
Hi, my name is Purnima. So just in follow-up to Rushi's earlier question and thinking about how whatever contextual, ICT systems or solutions or alternatives we come up with, to what extent do you see an appetite amongst different state education departments in terms of their approach to this? Are they also thinking about a smart classroom for each classroom as the baseline minimum tech, or a computer for each school? Or are they also open to this idea of fluidity and contextuality, which might vary from geography to geography? Because sometimes at that system level, scaling up, it's just easier to do one size fits all. So I don't know if you have any experiences to share from perhaps your work with policy or with different governments and how they're approaching this.
Should I take that, Anusha?
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, I will tell you paradoxically a good news. Although mighty for change and we want to explore how tech can help education, the good news is because of COVID, nobody has any money. So fortunately, because of that, state governments are not imagining computers in schools or labs. They have no money for the regular school education, and therefore tech, which for them is always a huge hardware procurement, is not actually happening in most states. I think the only state that has spent a lot, maybe a couple of states are spending a lot of money. One is Andhra Pradesh, which has unfortunately got into this Byju's embrace and procured tabs for crores of rupees and given it to students. I think researchers will find it will be very useful to have research on the ground as to what exactly are the students doing with the tabs and how many of them are actually looking at Byju's content and benefiting from that, and what else they are doing with these tabs will be very useful to understand as research. Other than Andhra Pradesh, I think Haryana is spending some money. Haryana is a small state. It has a lot of money, so it's spending it. But I think none of the other states have any tech programs on the anvil, except, of course, Kerala, which Anusha might have spoken about. Kerala is not worried too much about hardware. They've gone beyond that. They're looking at actual programs where teacher development, provision of free software, provision of OER is a primary focus of their efforts. So I don't know whether that answers the question. That fortunately, no Indian government is having mega programs for tech acquisition. And that is in a way good, because we have to approach it as like we approach anything else in school education. We need to look at every school as unique and try to allow the school to figure out what it wants to do with all the resources it can access. And tech has to be seen as one of the resources that the school needs to access to provide good educational environment for its children. It can be a compound wall, it can be drinking water, it can be a computer. The school should decide, and we should think bottom up as far as technology is concerned. That's the only way it will work. A top-down approach, we know historically, has never worked with anything. With technology, certainly it will not work.
Thank you.
Anusha, you want to add? Please go ahead.
No, Guru, I think that, yeah.
Guru, I just wanted to add that Telangana, Chhattisgarh too are spending quite a bit on technology. The IFPs are being installed in several schools in phases. So that is where we are.
Yeah, that is true. Rekha, from our experience, I can safely predict that in 2 years from now,
Yeah.
50% of these expensive devices will not be working, and the vendor will be unable to provide support in remote schools. Maybe in
Hmm.
Hyderabad, those schools, those panels can be maintained. It will be, Krishna Kumar, long back, he had used this phrase, and I used the phrase in one of the articles I wrote in Deccan Herald, where I termed the schools as the largest set of computer museums and computer graveyards in the world. Krishna Kumar had used that phrase that India has the largest number of computer museums and computer graveyards in the world, and he was referring to schools. And as a part of this museums and graveyards, this flat screen panels also will form a very illustrious part of it. I don't know what Chhattisgarh is doing. If they're spending money on teacher development, like the clicks program focused on, and not procuring, devices that nobody is ready for, the sad thing is it won't do much damage, but it's a waste of money, really. That's a sad thing.
But the question I wanted both Anisha and you to respond to is I was reading the landscape report that Anusha shared with us by Rajaram. I was struck by, if I've understood it right, I think he was saying that there are no empirical studies which show there is enhancement of learning because of EdTech. Is that right?
The report was written by Rajaram Sharma, so
Yeah.
IT for Change may not necessarily agree with everything that report says, of course, because it
No,
was
but
his report.
are there
Fine.
studies that show there is enhancement of
Yes,
learning
yes.
because of?
Yes, I would say yes. For example, IT for Change was a part of a study that we did recently, last year, 22-23. This is the Kerala e-language lab program, which is implemented in thousands of schools. So it's not as if, it's implemented in 20 schools or 50 schools. And we are talking from that. We did a longitudinal study over the entire year, academic year, with a baseline, midline, and endline. And that included student assessments also, oral written assessments. And we saw a significant improvement in the students' comfort levels in English, also communicative competencies. So there is just one example, and we are going to be doing a study of another interesting program in Kerala called the Little Kites program, which is, I think, the largest digital literacy program for students, where they are already looking at, programming, and they're going to look at machine learning, or what is popularly called AI, this year as a part of the program. Lakhs of students form tech clubs in schools, and it's a program that's running across the entire state. So Kerala is interesting not only because there is pedagogical significance that one can understand, but equally importantly, it's a systemic program. They don't, rest of the country will see every state government will proudly display some 20 schools or 50 schools. And these are the bouquet schools which are shown to every visitor as success stories. But in Kerala, you could go to any government school across the state, and you would find a picture not very different from the best schools in the state. So I just gave two examples: Little Kites, which is a digital literacy program, and E-Language Lab, which is a English language lab program, which actually this year IT for Change is hoping to contextualize and implement in Karnataka in collaboration with the CTs. So these kind of programs where the focus is not the hardware, but the focus is teacher development, the focus is classroom processes. These are places where technology can actually have a positive impact. I invite TISS students, if possible, TISS faculty and students to actually, Anu is actually, I know, active in Kerala. If she can collaborate on some specific research programs on how tech is helping or not helping. Of course, tech is not IT for Change doesn't believe that tech is panacea or a silver bullet to solve all the problems. And Kerala already is reasonably much better endowed in terms of general infrastructure than other schools in other parts of the country. So they are more tech ready than, let's say, Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand or Rajasthan would be, because in these states the basic basic education readiness is not there. Kerala is far ahead in that sense, so they are more ready for complex tech, is what I would say. But Kerala is worth studying. In fact, just as a example, Finland has requested the government of Kerala that we want to contextualize Little Kites program in our schools. Can you help us? So Finland is seeking help of the government of Kerala in this particular program. I know Anu is a skeptic, and I welcome collaborating with Anu in understanding Kerala better.
Yeah, I can see Maushmi and Purnima raised their hands. Guru, I would like to, first of all, understand what kind of learning happened. And second, I was looking into several of the resources. I suspect whether the behaviorist paradigm is reinvented through these OERs. Before the technology or before COVID, the whole discussion was on contextualizing learning, social constructivism, how much of curriculum design principles or pedagogical research is integrated into these content. It's important to investigate. And also I would like to look at that research that you mentioned on language learning. So for me, it is very important what kind of science learning happened in the classroom, what kind of meaningful understanding of concepts happened for children. So I think that is something that we need to examine in the context of Kerala.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to respond just for everybody. This it's a very important and useful debate to have, and I think I completely agree with you. So it's not that IT for change, we are very critical. So it's not that we go around saying technology is great and technology does wonders. Most of the time we are saying you're not using technology in the right way and it's not going to help you. That's what we usually say. But we also say that's not the entire story. It is possible. Is it possible? Can technology make a positive difference? We say yes. But then you have to take a lot of care, and many of the points you mentioned are actually very critical. So we say the TPCK, and the problem with most people is they stop at the TK. They say, if you understand how technology works, that is adequate for learning to happen. But unless the PCK is a part of that, we understand the pedagogy, we look at constructivist approaches versus behaviorism, as you're talking about. We look at content, whether it's thought-provoking or you're encouraging memorization. These are very important issues. Where I think you and I are differing at this point in time is the glass is having some water in it. It's not completely empty. It is not completely full. Now I am choosing to look at this point in time at the water that is there in the glass and saying, I agree that every teacher in Kerala is not completely understanding the constructivist paradigm. I agree with you, because that is a far bigger battle than helping them use technology to improve their English learning. Actually, that is the final battle. If a teacher understands what is constructivism, then she will figure out what technology she wants. Neither Kerala government nor the panchayat or private sector needs to provide technology, because she's at that level. That's what we aspire for. But notwithstanding that, in a very narrow sense, what our study says, and we will share the report with you, is actually it's not even I agree with the problem that teachers are very stuck in the behaviorist model. In fact, we are proposing a program to government of Kerala this academic year, trying to tell them, your language lab, although successful, has been focused on technological knowledge only. We want you to expand that program to cover PCK. So they've agreed, and we will be piloting a program in Kasaragod this year, which is a teacher development program, where we're going to tell the teachers, hey, do you know that along with this technology, your understanding of written examination as only mode of assessment is a problem? Can we discuss that? Do you realize that encouraging children to speak the language is far more important than making them simply write down what's on the blackboard? Can we discuss that? Can we figure out new pedagogies? These new pedagogies are not new. People have been talking about it for decades, but nobody has explored that with the teacher. We are looking at communities of practice. We're looking at TPCK as two concepts that we want to implement in Kasaragod in 23-24 academic year, precisely to address the problems that you're mentioning. That technological knowledge is good, but it is not enough, and pedagogical content knowledge also has to add to the mix. So that is an interesting program we look forward to. But to answer Rekha's specific question, yes, you will go and find that if the children are listening to stories from this platform, they're engaged in activities connected to these stories, it has a positive impact on their ability to communicate in English. We saw that between the baseline and the end line. That's a limited answer. Does it solve every problem in the world? No, it does not. Does it show technology can work? It shows.
Maybe we will take Maushmi's question and then Purnima.
Hi, thanks, Anu. Thanks for the talk. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Um, I just have a comment actually, because technology helps, doesn't help. Technology, I mean, I am learning about hyperplanes by reading from a textbook. I'm learning about hyperplanes by watching Byju's app. What is the final outcome? There's no measurement of the final outcome, at least in our country, a very solid final measure of outcome. Reading and learning abilities, assess surveys are measuring, and that's like what we should have done 30, 40, 50 years back. We are way behind. We do not have a survey like PIAC or PISA, which are measuring the 21st century skills. Our country doesn't do it. We may have standalone projects, we may have standalone shining examples. That doesn't solve the problem. Is technology helping? What was the objective? Is technology helping us get smarter, helping us beat technology? If can our students beat a robot? Can our students beat an artificial intelligence system? If that is not what is coming up, then we are going to heavily lose out on jobs. We're going to heavily lose out on jobs. The COVID has shown us how jobs can be wiped out swiftly. Hyderabad, we all have seen what has happened to big tech companies. In fact, right now, Intel is going to close down a whole bunch of jobs in Hyderabad. So where are we placed? I mean, if we are still using technology to understand what is a circle, how does water filtration happen? We are way behind. We have to use technology for being smarter, for improving our IQs, for all those 21st century skills if we are to survive. So that's my worry. That's my greatest worry. Thank you.
Anusha, you want to respond? I'll also add to what you say. Would you go ahead?
No, Guru, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, was that Moshmi? Moshmi, what you said felt like proprietary software vendor telling us that unless we get onto their bandwagon, we are lost in this world. So I think we have to immediately question many of the assumptions that we make. What is this thing called smart? Is there a universal criteria for being smart for every child in this country, for every teacher in this country? If we are extremely, I would say, underdeveloped socio-economically, is it possible that our education system can suddenly be the best in this country? Because your education system is a function of your overall context of your society and your economy. So that's why Kerala is doing better in technology, because Kerala is better in education, Kerala is better socioeconomically compared to the rest of the country, compared to a Jharkhand or a Bihar.
Sorry, Guru. I would like to. What do you mean by Kerala is best in terms of education? What is your measure of education here? That is my point. How are you measuring a learning outcome? So
the government of India. The government of India. No, let me answer. The government of India itself has some standards. I have not studied every state in the country, but I have been to, let's say, maybe 7-8 states. I've been to schools, and generally I'm making the comment based on simple factors like when you enter a school, is the physical infrastructure available? Are there classroom for the children? Do children sit on furniture? Are there adequate number of teachers? Is there drinking water available? Are there separate toilets for boys and girls? There are all these factors. I'm just telling you, they will be there in the RT Act in the annexure. So if you look at that broadly, the UDIS has data by school, which can be aggregated across states to say where are the where are the schools better in terms of infrastructure, in terms of vacancies of teachers not being there, in terms of materials and content being provided to the schools other than the textbooks, in terms of textbooks reaching on time, in terms of different kinds of programs focusing on pedagogy, on teacher development. If you look at all these parameters, the government of India has some index. Recently, I read somewhere that Kerala is first or second in that index, and Chandigarh is on the top. Chandigarh is a very small union territory, and small union territories like Pondicherry, Chandigarh get disproportionately high budget, so they are able to be on the top. Kerala is not a large state. Kerala is half of Karnataka, and Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh are, of course, much larger, and larger states have bigger problems in education as far as the school system is concerned. But I would say, if you look at...
I would just like to interrupt. I'm really sorry. I really like your response. But my point is, whatever we are doing on these measurement fronts, we are already 30, 40, 50 years behind.
By whose criteria? Who's to decide you're late or not late? Is it who's having the time bond? I'm challenging you to think you're of... I'm challenging you that...
That is what I'm saying. Yeah, let me complete. That is what I said, that the PISA and the PIAC surveys, India is not even part of the PISA and the PIAC.
Why should PISA? Why do you think PISA is relevant? First of all, I have a basic question for you. Do you understand assessment as one thing for the entire world? Do you think PISA is relevant to India and to Europe?
Let me complete, and probably then you can wrap up. Just the point that there's no particular city in India also which is close to Singapore. I end my story there. Yeah, thank you.
Why do you want India to be a Singapore? What are your parameters? I'm unable to understand. India is India, and India is in a pathetic state of underdevelopment. We have hunger in India. If you look at all the indices available, look at your hunger index, look at your social strife index, look at our unemployment index. In every index, we are doing very badly. We are doing very badly in the last several years because of several reasons. We can have a separate talk focusing only on why India is in the terrible state it is in. I think if you talk to 10 people on the road, everybody will agree that jobs is an issue. Everybody will agree school system is an issue. So when we are in such a issue, I think comparing ourselves to a Singapore, I don't know what is the purpose of the comparison, because Singapore is a small country. It gets huge revenue simply because it is in the middle of oil traffic in the world, and they are just minting money from that. They have enough money to fund their education. They took the right decisions also to build a good school system. I'm not saying governance is not an issue, but I'm saying, what are we trying? What is the purpose of education? We need to go back to the aims of education. If it is social transformation, if it is making the marginalized sections understand that education is their vehicle for empowerment, if it is a vehicle for the aspirations of the marginalized, where are they now? How can they aspire to be a Singapore? How can I help children of the poor in my urban slums to get education that my children got? I am thinking along those lines. I am not caught up in PISA. I'm not caught up in becoming Singapore. I'm not worried. I'm worried I'm 30 years behind. But I don't think I would not call it 30 years behind. I would say, can we live by the constitutional preamble? Can we give a life of dignity to every child in this country, to every adult in this country? That dignity, can education play a role in that? That is my aim. My aim is not to become Singapore. I'm very clear about that. And I think aims of education will give us an idea. It doesn't have to be my personal idea about it. You look at I already mentioned the preamble to the Constitution as the aspiration. I mentioned the Right to Education Act as the parameters for basic minimum good education that we must have. If you look at both these documents, they will guide us. We don't need to worry about what Singapore does.
Yeah, I think Ritesh has a question. Thank you, Mausmi. There are various other reasons why India is not participating in the TIMSS and PISA kind of test. Maybe Ritesh has a question.
Yeah, I hope Purnima has completed her question, but I'll just, oh, no. So I think we first
you can ask and then we will go to Purnima.
Okay, thanks. So actually I have two questions. One drawing upon the technological discourse idea. See, if we look at any technology, I mean, one that we acknowledge that we have a huge digital divide in the Indian context. And that is a lurking problem for us. Also to see how, what kind of ways can we think of, imagine of, to integrate technology in the learning fold. But the other aspect of discourse that comes from the thinking of technology is the idea of technological obsoleteness. So we are also aware that there is an accelerated pace of change within technologies. And on one hand, we have digital divide. On the other hand, we have obsoleteness. And somewhere in between, there is a sense of a creation or a recreation of marginalization, which is technological marginalization. So I know I'm kind of striving to drive to different ideas at the same time, but I just wanted to ask Anusha and Guru their reflections on, how do we see ways of handling this technological marginalization? Is it about developing alternative mechanisms to engage with technology, or is it also about reflections on the use of technology during the learning that be made integral to the process of learning itself? Just sorry, it's a long question, but I hope I'm making sense.
Anusha, you go ahead. Yeah, Anusha, go ahead. I'll add to your answer.
Yeah, Ritesh, sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't quite understand the question.
Okay, so if we look at the whole realm of artifactual world, as a case of technological evolution, we find that there are two things that are happening over there, which seem to be in contrast with each other. On one hand, we are limited by the our limitations of accessing technology lead to digital divide, and therefore, the access question becomes much more prominent. But on the other hand, we notice that there is an accelerated growth in technologies in the present time. So there is also a fast rate of obsoleteness that is setting in. So we have this dual tension, between digital divide versus obsoleteness. Okay, and there seems to be pushing forward an idea of a specialized kind of marginalization, which is a technological marginalization. So I was thinking, what could be the ways of countering this kind of marginalization? Would it be through thinking of alternative uh, frameworks like the FOSS and others to come into practice, or is there a way of integrating aspect of reflection among learners who are going to use technology about the limitations, affordances of those technologies? Or could there be any other way?
Right. I think certainly both of those are necessary. I mean, we need to evaluate and, in fact, in one of the, there was a webinar that we were participating in, and what came up in the discussion was, how, like in terms of tech growing rapidly, and even in education, the way it is being used in China, or, like the advanced level at which, it is being integrated, and within the classrooms, and they're using AI for, they have headbands and they're evaluating how, whether the children are focusing and then what they're learning. It's at that level. And on the other hand, as you said, there are, countries like India as well, where access itself is like a huge issue. And in a way, I think we can sort of, we are as of now immune to that extreme scenario of the ill effects of such rapid growth and exploitation of tech to that extent. And that is an extreme form of learnification, as I what I mentioned about. So certainly I think given our context, we definitely need to evaluate and reflect how we need to proceed further. And then it's important to bring in voices from everywhere, of educators, of teachers, of policymakers on how we proceed from here given the situation. And then is it really large scale adoption of technologies, that really where we want to be, or how do we want to use, and then what really is the purpose? That, I mean, essentially I think in education it comes down to that. The objective is not that, okay, we have technology and we have to use it in education and then we're going to find a way to use it. That is not what we want. But then we know there are educational objectives, and then like every discipline, there are objectives and, learning outcomes that are defined. And then what role can technology play, or, what are the possibilities, I think is where we have to start and evaluate and proceed.
Yeah, thanks. I'll add to that, Ritesh. So I think, see, history is always a useful teacher, and I think we have to go look at the history of technology. And sometimes we think digital technology is very unique, and we have never faced anything like this before, but that's not true. Every time digital technologies, I don't know if Anusha explained, digital technologies are a subset of what we call as ICTs, information and communication technologies. And history tells us that every time there is a new information and communication technology, it has had phenomenal impact on the world, on the society, simply because communication is a basic human process. So you can imagine when language was invented, language is one of our earliest ICTs. Language clearly would have made people who were able to communicate with the language very superior to people who didn't have that language. Of course, over a period of time, all societies developed language, but it's possible there was a period of time when language is available to some groups and not to other groups. And obviously, the sophisticated communication of language straight away made us superior to animals and gave us a great advantage over them. And maybe there were divisions in society at that point in time. Of course, language didn't cost anything. So therefore, over a period of time, every society, every community developed language. As we went on with more and more, with further ICTs, they are expensive, they're complex. Every ICT is more complex than the earlier ICT, which is why it's so useful and powerful. I'm sure when books were invented, books created this literate and illiterate, text literate and text illiterate groups. And there is a divide between those groups even today. In India, you will find we have the largest population of text illiterate people in the whole world. And there is a divide between them and those who are text literate. And within the text literate, there are divisions amongst people who are highly sophisticated in text literacy, like the professors in universities, and people who are barely competent in text literacy. Digital technologies are even more complex than print and radio, television, and therefore naturally they will create stratification in society. Now, so far as historically, if you see, every advance of technology has caused losses. And I would recommend strongly this article by Postman. I will share it with Tanu. He says 5 things you need to know about technological change, and he says every technological change creates winners and losers, which we know. And then he says a very interesting thing. He says in every technological change, the winners want to convince the losers that they are the winners. So this is a very powerful message. The winners want to convince the losers that they are the winners, because then they'll accept hegemony. And that's why this whole notion of some uniformly good thing in the world, or we are 30 years behind, all this discourse is highly problematic, because it is giving us an idea of a life which is not really meaningful in our current context, as it were. So the winners are persuading the losers that unless we become Singapore, we are nobody. But we will not become a Singapore, because for us to become Singapore, the way we have to exploit the rest of the world, there is no more exploitation possible. And that brings me to the second part of the problem. Historically, technology divides and winners and losers have somehow accustomed to one another and have some equilibrium may have emerged. But today we are in the era where we are in the global warming era, or the climate change era, which is basically nature signal to us that nature is spent. There is no more surplus available within nature to accommodate the technology expansion. What is ravaging nature? It is technology, actually. It's a different manifestation of technology which is causing the climate change to happen, because it's not only mining, it could be mining, industry, deforestation. Every act that we are committing is causing that. And it is a fear which is not only expressed by me and felt by me. Your Harari, who's one of the thinkers in very widely popular thinkers of today's era, he says the same thing, that nature may no longer be able to accommodate the technology excesses that human beings have. So even in today's world of technology, the rich and the powerful want to convince us that the current paradigm is only paradigm possible, and because it benefits them. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or the Google owners want to tell us that what they are doing for us is the best thing that's possible for us. The resolution, therefore, is at 2 levels. And Anusha mentioned one of it, which is the policy level. We need to have political control over technology, and IT for Change work strongly talks about how we cannot allow the corporates to decide what technology should be for society and the economy. We need to have political control, which is based on what will contribute to public welfare. Anusha spoke about educational purpose for education. The same thing for every technology application in society and economy. How do you determine something is good or bad? And one of the hegemonic terms that we have accepted without question is this term called innovation. Innovation is supposed to be uniformly and universally good, but every innovation is not necessarily beneficial to humanity. And somebody has to say this is an innovation, but we don't want it. Instagram is very powerful, but in its current manifestation, is the biggest cause of adolescent girl suicides in the whole world. Do we want that? Do we want tobacco to be available freely to everybody to smoke and become addicted and destroy their health? So it's a political control. So the political control won't emerge in a vacuum. And that's why this force and public technology is important, because we have to talk about it to people. We have to convince people that it's when we own technology that technology will work for us, not when Google and Facebook own it. And policy has to also support the use of technology to promote public welfare, which is why we keep singing the praises of Kerala, knowing fully well that it's not pedagogically 100% or anything like that. But the Kerala government has understood that Google and Byju's are not going to save its children. The Kerala education system has to save the children using technology. And so it's a long and complex answer. I don't know how much of it you got. It's a very difficult struggle we have in front of us. We need to understand technology, history of technology, role of technology in society and polity and economy, and persuade people that we can do sensible things. We are capable of sensible things. It's possible.
Mm.
Is it likely? I don't think so.
We can still have the hope going.
Yes, yes, we should have
Yeah.
hope. And like somebody said, even if you don't have work, hope, continue your work, because maybe because of your work, hope may return. So I don't have hope, but I will do what I need to do.
Yeah. So I'll just stop over here and let Purnima ask her.
I think that her question has been answered through the chat. Am I right, Purnima? Because
She
I
had
can see
another
Anusha
question.
has responded.
She had another question.
Exactly, but I think I have derived the answer
Sure,
to the
sure.
conversation. So thank you. Was that audible?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. It was indeed a delight to have both of you here with us today. I thank both our speakers for very systematically taking us through the growing
Actually,
significance
Tejal,
of technology.
I had a
Yeah,
question.
ma'am. Okay,
Sorry, so I think I want to ask whether online participants, any other online participants has any question. I saw Ranu joining from TISS Mumbai and several others. So anyone from the online participants, if you have any questions, please. Sorry, Tejal, before concluding, I thought we... Okay. Okay, then I think, Guru, I just wanted to add one thing. When we speak of Kerala also, which school system that you are talking? Kerala also is a highly differentiated school system with a diversified curriculum. So I think we are just speaking about public education system. So what is happening to other schools? So I think anyway, I will think we both need to discuss this outside of this. Yeah. So if there are no other questions, we can conclude the session.
I thank both our speakers for very systematically taking us through the growing significance of technology in our lives, while also reminding us of the dangers of learnification and the technological and economical implications of this phenomena, and also for providing us ways to respond to it through FOSS and OER. We also thank you for saying it loud and clear that technology is not an answer to all the problems. And in future, we would also like to know how the plan to work with teachers on TPCK unfolds. The richness of this content presented and the thoughtful articulation of ideas have truly made this session an intellectual feast. We thank you a lot.